Why can this book heal lonely and insociable people? 10 minutes to read a book. Today, we are reading Demian. Over 100 years ago, a mysterious novel was published in Germany. As soon as the book was released, it sparked a buying frenzy. Strangely, the author was signed as Sinclair. No one knew who this person really was. It wasn't until the work won an award that people realized the mysterious figure behind the pseudonym was the famous writer Hermann Hesse. At that time, Hesse was going through major life changes. His family was falling apart. He was plagued by illness, and he was forced to move to Switzerland to begin a long period of solitude. This novel, Demian, born out of pain, was Hesse's redemption for the world, and also his self-healing. In the dark river of fate, we are surrounded by anxiety, hammered by suffering. How do we find salvation within ourselves? How do we achieve transformation and growth? After reading Demian, you might gain some insight. The protagonist, Sinclair, is a 10-year-old boy. He grew up in a wealthy family, enjoying warm family affection, elegant manners, and a well-ordered, beautiful life. He attends a Latin school, where most of his classmates are from the upper class. However, he often feels that there are two worlds around him, like day and night blending together. One world is his parents' home, where everything is familiar to him. It represents his loving yet strict parents, with various rules and academic demands, and a gentle, clean environment. The other world is entirely different, belonging to the servants and the lower classes, full of noise and chaos, brutality and roughness. One afternoon, Sinclair went out with two companions, and they encountered a bad kid, Cromer. Cromer was strong and rough in nature. He attended a public school, and his father was a tailor, who often got drunk. The family had a bad reputation. Sinclair knew him, but also feared him, so he was very reluctant to have him join their group. Sinclair knew that Cromer despised well-behaved, rich kids. Watching his companions boast about their heroic deeds, in order to protect himself, he had to pretend to be a bad kid, and deliberately claimed that he had stolen apples to impress him. But who would have thought? Cromer grabbed him by the neck and threatened to expose his theft, demanding hush money from him. The bullied Sinclair returned home, both anxious and scared, unable to sleep peacefully. He wanted to tell his parents, but feared their contempt and disappointment. But he didn't have any money, so he had no choice but to steal from home repeatedly to satisfy Cromer. When he had no money, he had to do tasks for Cromer, even committing many bad deeds. This way, fear took complete control of him, and Sinclair was trapped in the cracks between two worlds, struggling to survive. Every day felt endless. Until the arrival of Demian, everything began to change. Demian was a transfer student, and compared to the other students, he was unique. In class, he dared to challenge the authority of the teachers and textbooks, and openly oppose them. Seeing Demian firmly express his own views, the always obedient Sinclair was deeply shocked. He realized that the world could be interpreted differently, and that one could live fearlessly. From then on, the image of Demian planted a seed in Sinclair's heart. One time, when Sinclair was once again threatened by Cromer, in his moment of fear and helplessness, a voice suddenly called out to him from behind. He turned around. It was Demian. Demian had witnessed everything that happened. He firmly stood by Sinclair's side, saying, "We are not born to fear others. If you fear someone, it's because you have given them power over you." These words deeply inspired Sinclair, giving him the courage to face his fears, as if he now possessed the strength to fight against the darkness. So, Sinclair decided to bravely confront Cromer's harassment, no longer afraid, no longer a puppet in his hands. Unexpectedly, after Sinclair gathered his courage, Cromer never bothered him again. Regarding Sinclair's first derailment in his growth, Hesse wrote that in these unknown experiences lies the most intrinsic and fundamental patterns of our fate, cracks and fractures. We'll heal again, we'll recover and be forgotten, but in the deepest corners of our hearts, they still live on, still bleeding, after witnessing and overcoming the evil in the real world. Sinclair returned to the world of light. He always believed that escaping Cromer's grasp was thanks to himself. This keeps the translation and timing in sync with the original video. By chance, Sinclair eventually learned that Cromer stopped bothering him, because Demian had quietly resolved everything. This made Sinclair even more convinced and admiring of Demian. But at the same time, he feared that he might become dependent on Demian and never truly grow. He desperately wanted to grow up, eager to prove and realize himself. So, he went to study at a boarding school far away, leaving behind his friend Demian. At the new school, Sinclair's unwillingness to flatter others made him unpopular and noticed. He could only respond to his classmates' isolation with disdain and mockery, using a cynical exterior to mask his loneliness and sadness. In his emptiness, he followed the school's delinquents, spending nights in bars, learning to drink heavily. Alcohol numbed his desensitized heart, but also caused his grades to plummet. The school board warned him of expulsion, but he scoffed. His parents scolded him in pain, but he turned a deaf ear. He abused himself recklessly, feeling that only in this way could he break free from his parents' control and appear mature and thoughtful. This rebellious mindset continued until a certain holiday. That day, he returned home and met Demian. He arrogantly invited Demian to the tavern, skillfully ordered drinks and drank them down. Seeing Demian's astonished expression, Sinclair was smug. It seemed he was no longer the puppet he once was, finally able to do something that even Demian could not. Demian asked Sinclair, cup after cup, "Is this the life you expected?" Then Demian settled the bill and left the tavern, leaving Sinclair stunned. They parted on bad terms, but Demian's question remained in Sinclair's mind. Soon after, Sinclair met a young girl in the park, who instantly captured his heart, Beatrice. Her beauty, innocence, and elegance enthralled him. Love reignited his inner flame, awakening his sense of responsibility and vitality. It was as if overnight, Sinclair had given up drinking and many bad habits. He went from being a precocious wastrel to someone who wanted to be a man of integrity and virtue. He also found new joy in life through learning to paint, using his brush over and over to depict Beatrice's likeness. But when the painting was finished, Sinclair was suddenly shocked. He realized that the face he had painted was clearly Demian's face. It turns out that it was not the girl who had changed Sinclair. It was Demian's words that had taken root in his heart. Within us, there lives a person who knows and demands everything. What he does is far better than what we ourselves can do. After this misguided attempt at life, he understood even more that sinking into a corrupted world was not the fate he desired. The purity and light represented by the girl and Demian were the life he longed for. As the book says, light and darkness together construct this complex world. After stepping in, the good and bad are all one's own. After Sinclair's life returned to the right path, he received a letter from Demian. It said that birds must break free from the shell. But in this world, to transcend the world, one must first destroy it. This statement once again enlightened Sinclair. So, he embarked on a journey to find himself. During his travels, he met a true musician, the organist Pistorius. Pistorius was the son of a pastor, and had studied theology extensively from a young age, with excellent grades. He could have inherited the ministry, with a bright future ahead, but on the eve of his professional exam, he suddenly gave it up. He left his hometown, and eventually found work as an organist in a small tavern. Pistorius gave Sinclair courage. The path of the brave is easy, but our path is arduous. Yet we are willing to walk it. Their similar experiences made them feel a deep connection. However, after a while, Sinclair found himself making constant progress, while Pistorius was still immersed in his small circle, unwilling to step into a new life. So, he parted ways with Pistorius, and continued forward alone. Fortunately, he met Demian once again, and got to know Demian's mother, Mrs. Eve. Mrs. Eve was deeply understanding of Sinclair's situation, and very tolerant of his emotions. When Sinclair was troubled, she gently guided him, and kept him comfortable. Sinclair cherished the time spent by her side. However, Mrs. Eve encouraged Sinclair to find his dream first, and then the path would become clearer. Sinclair suddenly understood. If he lost himself in love, and stopped pursuing his dreams, what difference would there be from Pistorius, who couldn't step out of his comfort zone? At this moment, news of the sudden outbreak of war spread across Europe. Sinclair and Demian each went to the battlefield, seeking to pursue their dreams in the most brutal places, to prove his worth. During a battle, Sinclair was injured and fell into a coma. As he believed he was about to die, he seemed to hear Demian's voice in a daze. "Little Sinclair, I have to leave now. You might still need me to deal with Chroma." or something else. When you call for me, I can't come riding on a horse or take a train. You need to listen carefully to your own voice. You'll find that I'm in your heart. Understand? And this is you said if you feel it well. Let me give you a kiss from her. She hasn't trusted it to me. This voice awakened Sinclair's will to survive. He struggled to open his eyes, but he did not see Demian. Only himself was there. He suddenly realized that no one can guide you through your own life. The path of life must ultimately be walked step by oneself. Having experienced life and death, Sinclair emerged like a bird from its shell, finally becoming independent and into it both mentally and spiritually. He no longer needed to search for his path in someone else's door. Even when walking alone, he feared no storm. Hess said that a person's life is a process of self-discovery, trying and gaining insights on various journeys. There is no perfect ending. Yet everyone strives to live, whether foolishly or wisely, doing their best. The Sinclair in the book is also a reflection of many people's growth. In youth, we all long for and depend on a deity who can guide us to overcome difficulties and find our ideals, returning to our true selves. But as we mature step by step, we will find that no matter how others try to shelter and help you, no one can be your eternal shape, and no one can be your lifelong guide. The process of finding oneself inevitably involves solitude and pain, but those seemingly wandering and reckless growth experiences will eventually make you independent and strong. So do not be afraid, nor should you rush to tear down the walls within your heart, overcoming mental barriers. One day you will also break free from the shell that confines you. A person's sole mission is to move towards oneself, to yearn for oneself, and to listen to oneself. Only you can be your own guide.